Our Lady J. Should I call you Miss J or just
Lady
J?
J is fine.
Lady J? Okay.
Or
You are a story editor and a writer on Transparent. And what's interesting is that you come from a background of at least before this, you were mostly known through music, and now you're in a very prominent writing role on a TV series. What was that like? Making that leap from musician to writer.
well, it was a leap of faith. I just had faith in Jill Soloway. When she hired me, I said, "Are you sure about this?" And she says, "Come on, it'll be easy. Don't worry about it." And actually, we just wrapped season four, and for season four, my role was producer writer. So it was a big leap of faith, but one that I'm really glad I took, and I feel really lucky to be a part of it and to have learned about the process from Jill herself.
Had you done any writing prior to taking this job with the series?
I'd done a lot of writing, yeah, but never in screenwriting. Um, Something that Jill recognized during season one was that she needed a trans writer for season two. And when she went looking for one, she realized that there was really a lack of opportunity in Hollywood for trans writers, because that's where, that's what it's all about, is just having the opportunity to write. So I submitted a short story. She reached out to a bunch of writers, and I had done a lot of theater. I've written short stories. I had done opera, musicals, but never TV. So from that, she asked me to join a workshop along with five other trans women, and she taught us each how to write for television. We recreated a writer's room and in 1 week wrote a pilot. And then it was after that that she asked me to join the staff.
That's fantastic. That's amazing.
It's cool. I feel like I won the golden ticket a little bit, as far as how getting into a writer's room. I've heard like all different ways of doing it, and to be picked by Jill and developed as an artist really has been the experience of a lifetime.
One that's what you brought up was really interesting is that Jill has really gone out of her is really made this show. It's not just a show about trans people as an aspect of it, because it's really just about family.
Right.
It's the environment behind the camera. There are there are so many trans people who work on the show. What's that environment? What's that environment like to have that kind of openness there?
It's a dream. I really didn't know how lacking I was before I came into that environment. I was used to, kind of keeping to myself. When I was making music, I was doing really well in the classical world and also musical theater in New York. And then I transitioned in 2005, 2006. I started my transition, and the work just dried up. I had played Carnegie Hall, and I had all these amazing milestones in my career as a musician, and then the calls weren't happening anymore, and it was in direct correlation with my transness and with me being out. And so I had learned to keep that part of myself quiet, and I brought it into my music as a singer-songwriter and as a performer, but as a classical musician, I had to kind of keep that down. And to enter a new space where not only was it accepted that I was trans, but my story and my identity were the subject matters of the show, it was just such a huge relief. I really didn't realize like the low level depression I had from like just being stifled as an artist and as a human being. And to enter a space where there were so many other people like me, and I wasn't afraid to tell my story. And in fact, I was rewarded for telling my story. That really became a dream, and it's changed my life. I hope everyone someday gets to experience that.
It's really beautiful, actually, and I think that's a magnificent thing.
Thank you.
Jill said recently that this upcoming season, the fourth season, is that it's gonna be more political. Did that come from her, or did you and the other writers push her in that direction for the show this season?
Jill's always been political, and Jill loves to just jump in the middle of things. That's one of the many things I love about them. And so we were given a direction to go in, and I don't want to give away too much, but it's a global political direction. With the election in America last year, we were 2 months into writing when the election happened, and it felt like we just had to scrap everything and start over. It felt like such a big change. But instead of scrapping everything and starting over, we let it become the tone of the season. And so the season has a really agitated tone to it, where the characters are just kind of wandering around like everyone is right now, or at least the people I know are kind of awestruck that such a change could happen in our country. When we thought we were really moving forward, we took a big step backwards. So the characters are feeling that, and then they stumble into politics kind of unwillingly. They step into some political situations, and they learn, and hopefully America will learn along with these characters, about the global politics, the injustices that are happening, particularly around Israel-Palestine. And it's a very global political show this season, and I think it's gonna start a lot of ignite a lot of fires of discussions and hopefully healing.
It's really what you just said, Israel and Palestine, because normally when I first read that, I was like, okay, there's a lot of trans awareness now going on in politics, but I forgot about the most recent season, the dust up that Cherry Jones has at the Jewish celebration, and so that's gonna be fun.
We really lean into that this season. It's a show not just about a trans woman, but about a Jewish trans woman, and so it's we lean into that aspect of the show a lot more actually.
So you said you came in season 2, correct?
Correct.
When you first heard about the series, before you were involved with it, there's been a lot of dialogue that's been going on in recent years about people that are not trans portraying trans characters. And I was wondering, what was your personal viewpoint of having an actor like Jeffrey Tambor portraying a trans woman going through that transition?
Well, it's an interesting situation, because when we meet Maura, she has yet to transition physically, and she isn't even out to anyone in season 1. She's still identifying as Mort. So I thought what was really effective as a viewer was that I know Jeffrey Tambor as Jeffrey Tambor, the actor, and I've loved watching Jeffrey for years. And we get to watch this actor transition on screen at the same time that Maura is transitioning on screen. And so in that way, I think that it really worked best to have a well-known cis actor in that role. But I think also moving forward, politically, in the climate that we're in, and the progress that we've made in Hollywood and storytelling, I do think it is important to cast trans people in trans roles from here on out. Although Jeffrey playing Maura, I believe, he's just amazing. And I honestly forget that Jeffrey is a cis man most of the time, because I see Jeffrey as Maura. I saw Jeffrey at an event, an FYC event a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, wait, I forgot. You're a cis male, you're Jeffrey, not Maura, because Jeffrey just lives that role.
And he does really he embodies it so well. Yeah. I'm wondering, as you've come to hone your skills as a writer on the show, is there a character that you found you particularly enjoy writing dialogue for?
I do. I love getting into all the characters, but Davina, I love Davina. She's one of my favorite. Because she has been through it, and she's just not taken any BS from anyone. And we really learn a lot about her in season 4. Her role is really upped. And then also Shay in season 3, that was so cathartic to be able to tell the story of a trans relationship, even though it only lasted for a day in an amusement park with Josh Pfefferman. that scene and that story was an important one to tell. So I like to lean into the roles that the voices that haven't been voiced before, really.
So, I love those two characters, especially Davina, and I was so happy that we're going to get to see more from her because Alexandra Billings is so good. She's so good.
I love
I know. I just every time she's on screen, I'm just like, I just want you to be there, and I just want to find out everything about you.
Yes, exactly. I sense a spin-off at some point.
I love it. So one of the other things that's always been talked about this show is it's because of the Emmys and the other awards that's been up for. It's classified as comedy.
Right.
But do you consider the show to be a comedy or a drama, or do you really just think it just rides that line?
I think it rides the line. I think the way we tell the story is comedic because it's so absurd, the situations that these characters are put in, and the reactions are so absurd that you can't but laugh. Like whenever something like as heavy as a transition or medical transition, when Maura is talking to her sister Bryna and her girlfriend Vicky in season 3, it's a really heavy subject, and we watch Maura like shutting down while these other cis people are getting drunk and just joking about it. And I think in that way it's a comedy because we point out the absurdities of very serious situations. But the actual content itself it's impossible to not look at it seriously, especially where we are in 2017 with, trans lives are at stake. And so we do really ride the line of comedy and drama.
And I find it's an interesting parallel also because with the more recognition that the trans community has gotten over recent years, there's this more discovery that gender isn't binary. And
Right.
I think with this show, it's not binary comedy drama. It rides it's somewhere in between, and I love seeing it ride that line.
Awesome. Thank you. We really, that's something that we lean into more and more as the show goes on. It kind of has this snowball effect where we teach the viewers about something, and then that's there out in the ethos, and then other people are discussing it, and then by the time we come in next season, we're like, okay, well, now they know that. Now where can we go? How much further can we lean in? And so that's one of the things about having such a wide audience.
So one of the things I'm really curious about, and this is more of a personal question for you, is what misconception there's still, the I guess the visibility of the trans community has only really become more visible over the past couple of years. And so there are still so many misconceptions, but I mean, hell, the gay rights movement's been going on for coming up on 50 years, and there's still a lot of misconceptions there. What misconception about trans people do you think the program has done the best at clearing up?
I really am proud of the fact that we treat trans people like we treat cisgender people, non-trans people on the show, where we don't shy away from their love lives, where we don't shy away from them being faulted humans as well. There's this idea that trans people are so different from cis people that like we're just in a whole other category, we're just a whole other species, and I think that's what people have the hardest time with talking to a trans person or getting to know a trans person, because they don't see our commonalities. And one of the things that the show has done is to show our commonalities, and where a cis viewer can watch a trans person's life and relate. And so even though our struggle is much different, and we do have a whole other set of circumstances that we have to go through that a lot of cis people don't go through, the struggle to be seen and to be loved and to love is all the same, really.
And and there was one last question I had, and it just like literally just flew out of my mind.
All right.
Well, I think that was my last question.
Cool.
Lady J. Oh, it was actually about for season 3, which was the flashback episode.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my goodness, that I think that episode just touched such a nerve for so many people. What was it like getting to some of those conclusions in there, especially like when we see the real rift go between Mora and her sister? We really see the genesis of that. What was it like coming up with that and brainstorming that in the writer's room?
Well, the most exciting part of that episode for me, selfishly, was that it was a bottle episode, what we call a bottle episode, where it kind of was a little mini movie in the season. And so Jill really just encouraged me. She said, you know, no one else can write this episode. No one grew up trans. Please write this episode. And so she gave me so much creative freedom with it, where I just was able to, like, I went on to Palm Springs in the desert and like rented a little cabin and wrote the first draft out there. And one of the things that I really wanted to tell the story of was not about a male becoming a female, which is kind of the false narrative that we see in a lot of trans storytelling. But really, this child was just a child, gendered or not. And the child felt feminine and the child felt female. And so really the story is about how Mora becomes Mort. And then later on in life, Mort becomes Mora again. It's about the suppression of her identity. And so in doing that, I came up with all of these fantasies. And you know, Mora is in the baseball field, and she imagines that she's a girl, and she's in the bomb shelter, and she's imagining she's a girl. So we really get to follow Mora for who she is as a young child instead of a young Mort. And the writer's room, I love our writers so much and our producers. It's such an amazing fostering environment to be in. And one of the things that I think clicked with everyone is when we began to imagine Mort as a young girl, and not a young boy who would grow up to become a woman, but as a young girl who had to suppress herself and conform to this male identity. That really changed the way the writers and the way everyone thought of present day Mora, and then present day Mora and Bryna as well. And it just explains a lot about where Mora is now and why she's there.
And I just think that is it's really such an amazing episode. What's been like, seeing the reaction to it, but also you know, you're getting to be a part of, the celebration of the show now, not just a part of writing it. You're seeing you're getting to attend, you know, the Emmys as a writer, and where the show is being celebrated, you know, something you're a part of. What's that experience been like on both the episode and the overall award circuit?
Well, thank you for your kind words on it. It's been really fun. It's just fun. I feel so lucky to be a part of it. It feels like a celebration. Sometimes I imagine, you know, it was a hard life growing up trans. I grew up in a very small town that was not understanding, and the things that I saw and the things that I went through, sometimes this feels like a reward for sticking with it. And and also at the same time, it feels like the community is being rewarded. It's not about me. It's much, much bigger than me. It's our community has been so resilient in moving forward and keeping pride and dignity at the forefront of our identities. And I think we're now just reaping those rewards. We're being acknowledged, not just as a writer on a show, but like actresses and producers. And there's a whole big group of us that are being put out there. And I think it's amazing. I just feel really grateful.
Well, Lady J, I cannot begin to thank you enough for talking with us. I cannot wait for the fourth season. I know me and my mother are going to be gossiping about it all once it comes out. Do you know, has the premiere date been set yet for that fourth season?
Not yet. I think it's in September sometime. It's usually in the fall. So.
All right. Well, I will. Well, I'm still just counting down the days because I'm so excited for it.
Try to enjoy
Thank
summer without a new season.
I know, exactly. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you with this with the upcoming award season.
Thank you. It's really nice meeting you. Thanks.